Welcome back, guys. I'm looking to reach 1,000 subs. Support me by clicking the subscribe button.
Elon Musk walked into a tennis stadium and nobody could believe what happened next. Let me tell you something about the kind of moments that stop the world for just a second. Not the planned ones, not the staged ones, not the press releases and the photo ops and the carefully orchestrated announcements that flood your timeline every single day. I'm talking about the kind of moment that nobody saw coming, that nobody could have scripted, that made millions of people around the world stop scrolling and lean into their screens because what they were watching felt genuinely, impossibly real. That kind of moment happened on a warm afternoon in Rome, inside one of the most storied tennis venues on Earth, when a man who builds rockets and reimagines industries and treats the word impossible like a personal insult walked through the gates of the Foro Italico, found himself a seat in the front row, and couldn't take his eyes off a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines who was doing something that nobody in that stadium had expected her to do. That man was Elon Musk. The girl was Ila. And what happened between them in the tunnel beneath that stadium after the match ended became the most talked-about celebrity encounter in the entire history of the Italian Open. But before we get there, because trust me, you want to know every single detail of what went down in that tunnel, we have to set the scene properly. We have to go back to the beginning of that week in Rome, back to what the Foro Italico looked like and sounded like and felt like before any of this happened, because the atmosphere inside that stadium was already something extraordinary before Elon Musk showed up and turned it into something unforgettable. Let's talk about Ila first, because if you don't know who she is, you are genuinely missing one of the best ongoing stories in professional sports right now. Ila is 20 years old. She is from Manila, in the Philippines. She left home at 13 years old, to go train at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, which is exactly as extraordinary as it sounds. 13 years old, leaving your family, your country, everything familiar, to go chase something that almost no one from your background had ever chased before, in a sport that has historically been dominated by players from entirely different parts of the world, with entirely different resources and infrastructures behind them. The sheer audacity of that decision, made at an age when most kids are figuring out what elective to take in school, tells you everything you need to know about the essential nature of Ila before you watch her hit a single ball. And she can hit a ball. She can hit a ball in ways that make seasoned tennis analysts stop mid-sentence and reach for different vocabulary. She has been climbing the WTA rankings with a consistency and a pace that has forced the tennis world to pay attention. And the tennis world, which is not always quick to embrace new narratives, has been paying very close attention indeed. By the time Rome came around, she was ranked 42nd in the world. By the time Rome was done with her, she was ranked 38th. And those numbers, as we're going to explore in considerable detail, dramatically undersell what actually happened to her in that city that week. The draw had been kind enough to give her meaningful matches before the one that would define the week, and she had handled those matches in a way that told anyone watching exactly what kind of player she was becoming. Against Magdalena Frech, she was pushed to 3 sets, found herself in a position that would have ended the tournament run of a less resilient player, and then she locked in. She saved 9 out of 10 breakpoints in that final set. 9 out of 10. That statistic is not a coincidence, and it is not luck. That is a player who gets sharper under pressure rather than fraying at the edges. A player who finds something extra precisely when extra is what the moment demands. A player who, when everything is on the line and the match is right there in the balance, decides that this is exactly when she is going to be at her best. Then she beat Wang Xinyu in straight sets, avenging a loss from earlier in the season, and moved into the 3rd round. Her ranking ticked upward. The prize money climbed. The trajectory was visible to anyone paying attention. But here's the thing about Ila in Rome that no ranking and no prize money figure can actually capture. She had become the heart of the Foro Italico that week in a way that made the stadium feel like it belonged to her and to the community that had come to cheer her on. The Philippine community had shown up in Rome in numbers that made you do a double take. Not scattered supporters here and there, not a handful of flags in the upper tiers. We are talking about waves of people, entire sections of the stadium draped in the colors of the Philippines, chanting in unison, unified in a way that converted one of Europe's great tennis venues into something that felt, for those days, like an extension of Manila itself. The chant was Laban Alex. If you don't speak Filipino, the translation is something like fight. Alex, keep going. We are with you. Keep fighting. It echoed around the Foro Italico with a persistence and a volume and an emotional weight that had tournament officials exchanging glances with each other because they had simply never heard anything quite like it in that building before. The flags were synchronized. The noise was constant. The love was palpable in a way that transcended the usual relationship between a crowd and a player and became something more like a national reckoning, a collective declaration from an entire people that this young woman from Manila represented something much larger than herself, and they were going to make absolutely sure the whole world heard them say so.
Welcome back, guys. I'm looking to reach 1,000 subs. Support me by clicking the subscribe button.